Yep.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Debbie.
How are you doing?
Good. Ryan, do you want to explain a little bit about this too tonight? Because I brought that too, and you can kind of go through. Yeah, I went through and kind of added up, some of the totals, and I compared it against how much we actually have in our road. Hello,
everyone.
in our class road funds.
Yeah, rock star. Great to go. Yeah.
Not good weather out there.
Let's clear that.
They said until 5, so. that's
Yeah, you can see some blue sky out there.
Yeah.
That's positive.
Yes. Well, I have 6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and start our work meeting for February 20th, 2025. We have Debbie with us on Zoom, and I think Lisa will probably be coming in a little bit. We'll watch and see if she can.
I'm sure I need about 5 minutes.
Okay,
I need to read a letter and talk about a couple things that may have been overlooked and whatever. So this letter is concerning, the items that we requested on the agenda that were not put on. So give me a few minutes, we'll read through this and
okay,
planning commissioner, excuse me, the city council is aware of this. So dear council members, on Thursday, February 13th, 2025, Mayor Bingham emailed a letter to Commissioner Prince informing that effective immediately, she was placed on administrative leave from all actions and duties related to her role as a planning commission member. This was a blatant abuse of Mayor Bingham's power. Mayor Bingham had no authority to carry out this action. Commissioner Prince has not done anything to warrant this. In addition, the circumstances surrounding Mayor Bingham's actions and reasoning are a clear conflict of interest. If there was any question regarding Commissioner Prince's ability to perform her duties and to maintain her position on the planning commission, the decision on how to proceed should have rested squarely on the shoulders of the city council. On Monday, February 17th, Councilman Hill and I emailed a list of items to be put on the agenda for the February 2025 city council meeting. We asked that these items be added to the agenda and posted by the end of the day on Tuesday, February 18th, in order to provide transparency and ample notice to the public. Included in these items was the subject of Commissioner Prince. The city's attorneys, city council members, and Mayor Bingham were all copied on this email. Mayor Bingham deliberately kept these items from being put on the agenda, which is a violation of Hooper City ordinances. I'm now sending this letter to each of the city council members individually. We'll be discussing this in our work meeting tonight. This letter will serve as the Hooper City Council's clear instruction that effective immediately, Commissioner Amanda Prince will be fully reinstated to all actions and duties related to her role as a Hooper City Planning Commission member. I'm asking that all city council members who are in agreement with this sign this letter during our work meeting. And Deborah's already signed it. I plan on signing it. And I believe we're all in accord with doing this. The other issue that we really wanted to.
so is this not concerning the same thing, or should we?
No,
address
this
first?
is different.
Okay,
This is different.
let's address this first then. Anytime you are talking about anyone and you're aware of this, anyone's character or any possible legal action, it needs to be done in a closed or executive session.
Well,
And
we're
not
not
in
talking
the
about
open.
character. We're just
Well,
talking about reinstating her.
But there
So we're
is,
talking about reinstating her.
currently there is an active investigation going on. I was given direction by the police department that is handling this investigation, that this is the action that needs to be
No,
done.
that was a violation of city code, what you did.
It
So,
was not.
yes, it is.
And so
100% is.
based on an active investigation, this is what has to happen. She
No.
is not removed, and if the time does come when we need to discuss the removal of her, it will go before.
So let me
planning.
ask you
Will
this,
go
are you
before city
vetoing,
council.
if we all sign this, are you vetoing that?
Yes, I am, because it's
Okay.
not a removal.
You can't do that.
So what is going to happen with this is, it's an active investigation. Anytime there is an active investigation, there are certain rules that apply to that. And according to the police department, that's what this is. And
Did
so
they,
when
so
we
did they
find out-
direct you to suspend her?
They did.
I highly doubt. that.
Well, you can, it doesn't matter, she has been.
But anyway, as
So
far as
that's
the
what
city,
happened.
as far as.
I can make a call to see if that is the way that it works.
Until we have more information, the meeting authority, and hopefully by the next meeting, the next planning commission meeting, we will know more.
No.
And at the time when we do, then, because there's nothing that is for her to do between now and the meeting that will be held on March 13th.
She's reinstated. There's
Well,
four of us right there. So-
Bryce, that is not what's
Also-
going to happen.
Also, the
So
other,
she is not.
the other items that we wanted on there, because we really need to get, the planning commission needs to function by itself.
For sure.
And who's doing the
Yes.
agendas? So we need to define some, have some terms, and that's what we wanted to talk about, but you wouldn't put it on the agenda.
Well, okay, let's just kind of go back with that a little bit. You do not give any kind of explanation of what you want on the agenda. You give 4 items, and I was
That's right.
waiting for some direction, and I didn't receive any direction. But let me tell you what happened. And I said that in the email I sent you. As you are aware,
You
all
sent it
of
to
you
me
are
at
aware,
4:50 on Wednesday.
that is true.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for further direction from legal as far as that was. And it had already been brought up. You'd already brought this up. The letter you had brought up the week before to our meeting that you wanted to have on our agenda as far as the revoting. And then we told you then, no, that's planning commission, correct? We had already discussed this. This is up to planning commission.
I'm not sure where you're going with
Well,
this.
Okay, it's up to planning commission. Bottom
Yes,
line
it
is
is.
planning commission.
But
So
what
it's-
we need to do as a city council is give them some guidance, because there's nothing, they don't have their terms set, the agenda
The terms
process.
would have been set at the last meeting, but we
Yeah,
didn't
but
have
we're
a
not
quorum.
gonna pull it out of the hat. We decided that's not.
Well, we'd already decided that in
Well,
the meeting before, that's
we're not
how
gonna
we
do
were
that.
going to.
So I don't
So
know,
we're-
I don't know how you guys feel, but.
We're not going
we're
to
gonna
sit
pull
and
names out.
discuss names in a meeting.
No,
We
we're
are
not.
not.
Ryan has a solution.
So we're gonna do, secret ballot, basically, put in all this, make a ballot with who we want, for what terms. And we'll have somebody other than somebody on the council compile ballots and then come up with what we got.
Okay, and we had discussed that at the meeting. Do you remember we discussed that? At the work meeting we did, and then we discussed about doing a draw. And I believe it was even you that Bryce said,
Probably,
okay, let's go
that's-
ahead and
that
do
was
the
a
draw.
poor- That was a poor decision, so we're gonna track that. I don't think
Secret
that's-
ballot would be the
yeah.
way to do it, because that's the choice of the city council. Instead of just some chance. And that was in the original motion. The city council
Yeah.
decided.
It was, and then we talked about it in the work meeting, how would we do that? And we never could decide. It was never agreed upon how we were going to decide. So- Okay.
Yeah.
So then at the next planning commission meeting then, or
No.
excuse me, at the next city council meeting, then we
What's
will
that?
have the next city
So-
council meeting, we will do that. We will have Morgan then prepare something that she can do that with. And you can go ahead and vote for those. As far as the agendas, and I think Bryce, you should be as well aware of this as anybody because you served on the planning commission. Those agendas are set through the direction of things, applications that are applied at the city. So if someone comes in and
that's
applies,
true.
that is true.
That is
So
true.
through Malcolm, through Morgan,
Right.
that is who sets those agendas.
But-
It's not up to city council
No,
to be
no,
setting
it's
them.
not us. No,
It's
I'm
not
not saying
up
it's
to
us. It's the
No.
planning commission. So if two of
Correct.
them, they should operate just like we do. If two, we should stay out of their business. But what we want to do, if two, because there's no ordinance for it or code. If two of them, just like we do, want to put something on the agenda, they should be allowed to do that.
But there's differences between city council and planning commission. There is. and
Well,
you
I'm
can
sure
go
there's
through.
difference in
There
everything.
is.
However-
There's differences between planning commission
However-
and city council. Planning commission are a recommending board that they are given things on their agenda based on things that need to be placed on the
Sure,
agenda.
yeah.
And they end up voting on those. City council, it's different. Because city
But still,
council is
they
recommending
still have,
ordinances.
they still have things that are probably important that need to be put on. So they need that flexibility as well. So
Yes.
in my mind, it looks like one person's controlling everything. And I think we need something to separate.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
We just
won't
did this,
separate that.
we just reinstated Amanda.
You did not, you did not. Legally, you
So-
cannot, whenever there's an active, yes. Okay, yes, let's do
Pretty
that.
clear in the code that the planning commission is determined by the city council.
Yes,
And that was made very clear in the last multitude, 2 weeks ago.
yes, that is correct.
And-
But
and-
we are not removing her.
and
City
one-
council votes to remove her. We are not removing her. There is nothing in
You
our
don't have the
code.
authority to remove them. You don't.
Yes,
You do not.
I do not. City council does. But
but-
we are not
But
removing
even
her,
the
and I'm not
process
removing
was
her.
flawed. She was supposed to have a hearing. So,
A hearing for removal, go back and read the
Yeah.
code. If we are going to vote, if you are going to vote to remove her, I am still part of city council, but I do not get a vote. If there's going to be a vote to remove her, yes, there's going to be a hearing, there will be a vote to remove her. We are not removing her.
What
That
is,
is not
what is
what it said.
administrative leave? What,
Administrative
Okay.
leave, just,
what does that do?
that
what does that
meant
do
for
right
the
today?
last meeting, she could not come and be voting on items with the planning commission while she's on administrative leave. That doesn't mean by the next meeting, once the investigative, the
so-
prosecutor is screening the case. When they are done screening the case, we will have more information.
The problem with that is that there's been an allegation made, and to place somebody on administrative leave because of an allegation that has not been proven would be, that mean that
Exactly.
any people or anyone in the audience could file a complaint against any of you, and you'd automatically be on administrative leave until there's a decision made. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do you have a lawsuit
also
filed
what-
against you? Do you have a
also-
lawsuit today filed against you?
that has nothing to
Yeah,
do,
because if you do, like Reed explained, if you're guilty.
I am not going to talk about something.
If you
that
have
deals
a
with the
lawsuit
city.
filed
I'm
against
not.
you and it hasn't been proven one way or the other, then you could be on administrative leave till that's
Well,
decided again.
she already missed the meeting, so even if you reinstate her today, what will she be doing until the next meeting? Anything?
Working on things that pertain to the next meeting.
It's
So
the
by the next meeting,
It's
hopefully we will know. And you almost, all of you know, if it would have been a different situation and we would have had another planning commission member that would have hit someone else, they would have been handcuffed
Oh,
and
see,
taken
no,
out.
and I didn't-
It would
She
have.
didn't hit her.
2 videos that show that. 2 videos. One of them is the city's video and one of them was a cell phone that were turned over.
Yes, we do all this. Is there operators, so
The second council person, because the council is under control of the city council or the commission. If you were to put them on administrative leave, that's essentially taking away their rights. Only the city council can do it.
Isn't administrative leave for employees, whereas someone who's assigned to a position or elected, that's not something that can be used against them? That's what I've read. That's only for employees.
Well, what you need to understand, and I am really disappointed in you as city council members, because what you need to understand, I will tell you, I received a complaint in the office
Anonymous, I'm
about
sure.
that.
I'm sure it was anonymous,
You-
right?
I have been gone homesick for 2 days, and when I came, I received a complaint. So what are we telling to residents? That they can come to a meeting and may possibly get hit? So what are we saying? So if you don't do anything, then you're in trouble. If you do something, you are in trouble. This should be a safe place for people to be able to come. They should never, ever do that.
Sure.
all the above.
Right.
Yep, you're right.
Everyone should be
Everyone.
free.
Every one of us.
Because
You
we've
are
all
100%.
experienced it.
I have been harassed enormously,
That's
and
really
it's not a safe place for me. And
intimidating.
I should be, you should
Yeah.
be concerned about the city council
That's fine.
versus,
Kept us trying to talk.
you should be concerned about the city council and our safety versus some irreverent individuals in the audience. We have them harass us, we have them yell at us, we have them scream at us. There is no way that that is acceptable in this council room.
That is correct. So.
And yet it goes on.
And do that then, like I say, by next meeting, something should be settled. By then, the case will be screened. There will either be charges filed, there won't be charges filed. But at that time, if there are, then we will have a closed meeting where we will talk about this. And then we will open the meeting up for you to vote one way or the other. And that's the
No,
proper.
I've already voted. I'm
What?
still sticking by
Well,
that.
that's fine.
So I'm.
What happened to innocent? What happened to you're innocent until proven guilty? We've acted upon someone who is innocent as of right now. She hasn't been proven guilty of anything. And we've acted upon someone on the premise that someone else has made. I mean, that seems detrimental to our entire justice system if we start doing that.
Well, this is under the direction of the Roy City Police Department, and I was given direction by them. I waited until the very.
I will call them tomorrow because I know people in the Roy City
Go right
Police
ahead.
Department.
Okay, so
These other three items, if you want to call another meeting on Tuesday, since we can't seem to get it on the agenda, or what do you think?
no, if it's not an emergency, we're not calling meetings.
Well,
There.
there again, if you would have put it on, you could have handled it. There was-
Okay, but you already
there was three
discussed that. We're
items.
talking about planning
No,
commission doing
There
their
was
own,
4
right?
items, yes.
You're right.
But we need.
So
we need-
planning
so-
commission
so
will
let
do
me-
their own agendas, correct?
But
They
back
will.
up for a second. There is not, we need to put some legislation in place so they can function independently. Right now, it's like,
They-
they're not.
Well, they
they're not
are.
functioning independent. No, they're not. So
Well,
we
they
need to,
should
we
be.
need to help them out so they can be on their own.
No, city council should not be trying to do anything. And those that came to the training, which you
No,
did,
that's not true.
there
code
was
says-
training that said that
the
city
code
council and
says-
planning commission are supposed to be two
Yeah, but-
independent
But
bodies.
that's right, but the code says we're supposed to establish one and establish the procedures, how they function. It's not clear in the words, so we need to help them out and do that, so we can leave them alone, let them do their job. And that includes you too. Everyone needs to
sure.
do it.
For sure, yes. So at their next planning commission meeting, I guess at our next city council meeting, you are going to determine their terms. So you will do that. We are not having an emergency meeting to talk about how planning commission should function. That we're not, because they can do that on their own. We'll do the terms at our next meeting on March. That meeting will be held on March the 6th. So we will have that meeting and by then we'll have a ballot. We'll have Morgan write a ballot. She will go through and have it and you'll all vote, correct? That's how you want it done?
Except for the date.
March 6th is our next meeting.
There was
There was the agendas,
And they do their
the
agendas.
terms, and additional meetings, if they needed to call an additional meeting.
And again, the
That should be
additional
their choice.
meetings will be underneath. So what you need to understand is the role of the planning
We
commission.
understand.
So with the new subdivision ordinance, there may be a time they may have to have an additional meeting. That's not up to city council
No, it's
to
up to
say you
them.
have to.
That's
It's up
what
to
I'm
them.
saying.
It's going to be up to Malcolm
That's what I'm
that
saying.
says, I have this application in, we have a complete submission. So you have to have that done within those 15 days. If it falls within the time, there's going to be a meeting that will be held. If it doesn't fall, they may have to have a different meeting. But that will be under the jurisdiction of Malcolm saying there needs to be a meeting, another meeting scheduled. That's not city council.
We could.
6th of
The critical
March.
one is this
So how
piece right here.
long is it gonna actually get added to the agenda?
Again, my question is, why are those added to city council's agenda? Because we
Because
See, now, right now, we do the same thing, and say, okay, we'll move the meeting back, because it wasn't put on for tonight, and already you're pushing back that we can't put things on our own council
Okay.
agenda.
So let's do this, because I was going to go over this anyway. We are going to start having our agendas come out the week ahead. So the Wednesday before, the week before, anything you would like on the agenda needs to be submitted to Morgan the week before.
We can
And
still
we
add this
also- But that is
Legally,
legally you can
yes.
for
And
practice,
Yeah.
for practice.
we go
Because
off-
that gives
we go
no
off of Ticker's-
time for anybody to even have time. And when you send something and it has 4 words, A, B, C, and D, we have no idea.
But you're
Reed has no
describing things
idea.
that
I
don't
have no-
happen.
Yes,
You're
they do.
describing things.
Okay, so
Look,
when you
look,
send me
I think we've
something,
done, I think we're done talking about this, because every time we start talking about this, we just go in circles. You take us all these directions. What we're saying is when we put things on the agenda, and like 2 council members wanted to put it on the agenda, you did not put it on, or
I did not.
it either doesn't show up at all, or it might go on the Wednesday before. That's not what we
so when you
requested.
send, you want something on the agenda and you say Amanda Prince, how do we know what that is? How do Reed and I can prepare for what you're going to bring that says Amanda Prince?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is have a report sent to us so we know. That's how it is done in other cities,
What
so
you
they can
described,
prepare.
you're building it yourself. So,
Yeah, so.
Well-
maybe we all can do better,
We,
but
yes.
I don't know how many
Have you-
times we got an 80-page packet the day before.
Well, we're
That's
trying, and we're trying to do better.
So,
We, not the day before.
well,
We tried to do them the week and we're going to do them the week before. So, and if we had a city manager, which is me, because we don't, then I have been doing mayor's reports. Have all of you seen the mayor's reports I've been doing? So you know what it is we're going to be discussing. I don't just put
I know,
something
you're
on
trying to
there that you
reverse,
have no
you're
idea.
trying to
No, I
reverse
know.
onto us what
Okay,
we're trying to do here, and I don't understand that. Why are you fighting this?
the reason, again, and I'll say it one more time,
Well,
because
you can say it a
planning
dozen times,
commission
because it'll be
is
just,
responsible for planning commission. That is
Right.
not under, you should not be
that's what we're trying to
dictating to
tell you,
planning
that's what we're
commission.
trying to explain to you.
100%. I know that. But the interesting thing is, then it should go to planning commission. So I thought when you decided, Bryce, last time we were gonna do drawing, I'm not the one that said, let's don't do a drawing. So that's what we thought it was going to be. Morgan came prepared. She had all the terms drawn out. We didn't have a planning commission that showed up. Our very first time needing to have 4 people, we only had 3, so we couldn't do the drawing, correct? Everybody agrees? So we thought we would do it the next meeting. But if now you're going back and you're not agreeable to doing it as a drawing, then we will instruct Morgan to do a sheet for all of you to vote, correct? Correct. And as far as having additional
We'll write it
meetings,
out for you.
that
We'll
will
write it
be,
out so that we'll give you the instructions, so there won't be any reason for there to be an excuse for not doing it.
and as far as additional meetings, we are not going to call additional meetings anytime unless they are needed. That is a waste of taxpayer dollars. If we need to have additional planning commission meetings, they will be called, and Malcolm will be aware of those. And so additional ones will be called.
Well, we will determine that as well. We need a meeting, we can determine that as well.
Well, you don't determine having additional planning commission meetings. Why would you?
I'm not, no, that's what we wanted to let them know, is they can decide, not us. See, I think you're getting it wrong. We're trying to give them the reins.
Oh, me too. That's what I'm
It
saying.
doesn't appear
Well,
that
but
way.
when you
So-
give a sheet of what you want city council to determine
So my
for
concern
planning
is
commission,
this right here, because I'll stand by it 100%. So I think we need to make a phone call to Rice City Police.
Well, it doesn't control the meeting.
Or, right, so
Yeah.
I don't know if you're telling the truth or not.
well,
So this in my
Which-
mind, and it's legitimate, I'll stand 100% behind it.
okay.
Did you speak with the
Let's
chief?
move on then.
Sherry,
Okay.
did you speak with the chief or who did you speak with? Because that's the person I would like to contact.
Okay, so I will talk with you after, Debbie. I feel like we've spent enough time on this. So it was Roy City. Anybody,
Right.
I have the case number, and Debbie, I'm happy to give that to you after.
That's, I don't need the case number. I just need to know
Okay,
who to talk
So
to.
let's move on. Morgan needs to know who's attending the league conference, April 16th through the 18th. She said she
I
needed to know.
responded to it.
Bryce did, no one else did respond to Morgan.
I would
You're-
be attending.
You won't be, Ryan, will you be attending? You will? Oh, in Florida, okay. Okay, Debbie, will you be attending the conference in St. George in April?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, and we will get with Lisa. Okay, thank you on that. Okay, our next thing then is, let's go through agenda items. So are there any questions on financials? And I asked Ryan to kind of go through this a little bit because he met with us with Tammy and then everybody should have a copy. It was in the packet of the last financial statement. Did everybody receive that? Yes, no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
So, if you read a little bit of this, our overall revenue, or first of all, we're 59% to the year as of January 31st. Revenues, budget to date, right exactly at 59%, and expenditure year under budget at 44%. The three categories of the utility fund, garbage, sewer, and stormwater are all revenue, approximately 59%. Expenses for sewer, 49%, garbage, 54%, and stormwater, just under 10%. However, we're gonna spend some money on stormwater because of the state mandated audit that JD just did for us. So we've got to spend some money catching up on that with the findings that we found.
One thing, Ryan, on this first page, when it talked about how our income for the utility franchise is slightly under budget, and we talked about that because there are ones we thought that would be getting charged that aren't. So with rates increasing, we are surprised that this ends up coming in under budget. But you said like with the post office, they're not being,
So churches aren't being charged, there certain businesses that aren't being charged, the schools probably aren't being charged. And some major hitters like we suspected would be, are not being charged for that. Not only that, but the same thing that I argued from the beginning is there are people that have solar panels that have a very small utility bill that don't pay as much of the franchise tax as those that do not have solar panels. And so it's not a fair and equitable tax in my mind, but it is what it is. So, yeah, we're 235, 271 after 6 months, which is slightly under the projected probably for this time of year.
and also on that same page, it talks about the Class C road funds. So if you add up those two totals of how much we have in Class C road funds, it comes to $2,425,963, or $2,425,963, which sounds like a lot. But at the meeting where Ryan attended with us, if you add up the Class C road funds, it ended up being almost $1.5 million. And that was to do 2 miles with the road. So based on our, Class C road funds, we have enough to do about, 2.5 miles of,
That's not true.
so,
It depends on how you treat the road. There's
Yes,
four
four
types of
different
treatment
categories.
on the road. If
exactly.
you choose the most expensive one, it's only $760,000 for 2 miles.
Yes,
If you do the least amount, which has to be on a road that's in fairly good shape,
it's the
it's
Class.
$142,000 for 3 miles of road,
Mhm,
which is the
Yeah.
slurry.
Yeah,
Jared probably recommended the chip and seal method on roads that are actually in decent shape still, and that's $174,000 for 2 miles of road. So if you take our 2.4 million, and put into that 174,000 per 2 miles, then you're roughly, 24 miles.
yeah, well, it depends
of chip
on
and seal.
yes, if it's only chip and seal, it needs to be done. But if there's overlay or chip, but they're going to start working on that, a project, go through, evaluate our roads and determine which roads can just get the crack sealed, which ones need to do the slurry and as far as overlay and so forth.
There's approximately 98 miles of road in Hunter City. So,
Yeah.
And that's just sort of
Say that.
say. I would think. That's
And so he says, you know, it always looks like we have a lot of money in these Class C road funds, but they really do save them up so they have enough money that when they go out to do a project, that they can say, okay, we're going to do an overlay project, for example, then they would say how many roads they can do, but they will evaluate. Jared and Cody will evaluate this, and so they can tell us which roads they plan on doing and which of these processes they end up doing with that.
Let's see, what was there? Anyway, we're gonna meet, next Thursday for first budget meeting, except at 6 p.m. If that's okay.
It's an open meeting
That's probably
at 6:30, did you say? Or
6 o'clock. I think,
Did we
is
see-
that
Wednesday.
next Thursday. Because
Yes, 6 o'clock. One thing we spent quite a bit of time on, and she'll go through every bit of this, was looking at our employees and allocating them to where they need to be. Because you have enterprise funds that can only be spent for certain things along with, so we have employees that do partial sewer, partial roads, you know, partial parks. And so we spent quite a bit of time. We didn't really get all the way through it because we spent quite a bit of time on that, but we will go through and get all those classified, so it ends up being where it needs to be.
all part of the problem, since we lost Teresa, the coding isn't done correctly. And so there's been nobody really walking the Teresa shoes and coding the budget like she was doing. And so, it's gonna take some training on, departments, staff, myself, to figure out code, how, some of these, each budget. So that's gonna be a working process.
So who's been doing it?
So one thing that Cami, just a little bit side note with that too, Cami does budgets a little different. So Cami likes to break things down separately where we did not. And sometimes it's easier just to say all of this employee's expenses go to this one category, but it's really not how it should be.
Isn't that up on the pose before?
Well, not necessarily that the employees.
Well, we budget with code. You know, as you can look at your budget, see the vast amount of line items that we have. And so anytime we spend money, it should be not just a general category, let's just throw it in sewer, but there's 30 line items in sewer.
And in the past, we did, since Cami's came, she wanted to break that down and say, rather than it just all say sewer, it needs to be broken down, and stormwater. So like sewer and stormwater could have been in the same category, and Cami said, no, it shouldn't have been. We need to split those out so we can tell it's sewer covering sewer. Do we have enough in stormwater to cover stormwater? And that wasn't necessarily done in the past. So we're gonna go through that and make sure that we get these coded out separately, so it shows that. Go ahead.
Talk about Jared's wish list. So there's and then the white lights, the North Latin station, but there's another approximately $75,000 that need to be. We talked about it, we'll talk about that in the budget meeting, so, and then there's numerous, I hate to call them wish list items, but important items that should be budgeted within the next 35 years, so we need to look at all of them.
One thing, if you have your financials on page 3, which I think is something good to note. So it said that the city received a ramp grant for $218,268, and it's on page 3 of this front, this front. Anyway, this was for the restrooms at Hooper Park, and I was notified by the ramp grant committee in December that the completion report had never been done for this ramp grant. So Hooper City had never received this money. And so I went ahead and completed that report in December. So we would actually receive this money. And so that's good to know. Yeah, because we hadn't received it. And so when they were back going through their audits, they realized that a completion report had never been done for that grant. So and I did call today to verify, and they gave me the date that check was sent and was cashed. So we have in fact received that money.
One thing that we talked about, and Sharon and I talked about this before, is city council should be approving expenses. Dollars, 5,000, we just don't know where to put a button on which number, and so we need to come to a decision probably on budget meeting, what that number is and what the council needs to be aware of and over that certain limit. And so that's something we'll discuss as well.
So in our current ordinance, it says 5,000, and I brought this up last year, January, and said that we were supposed to be doing that, and I was questioned and said, no, as long as it's in the budget, we don't need to do that. Well, it is in our ordinances that anything over 5,000 is supposed to be approved. At the time, Teresa said she felt like 5,000 maybe wasn't quite high enough. Maybe it needs to be 10,000, because sometimes there's bills that come in, just a routine like power bill or something at one of the lift stations. But that Ryan's right. That is something that we need to do. We talked about, we could give you a copy of the check register as you go to the sewer meetings. There is a check register that is given every month. So that might be something that is, like Ryan mentioned, something that we need to be following, because it is one of our ordinances that we should be following.
Last thing I have on the financials is there are a couple of projects. It was the very, very last page. It talks about parks, trails, capital expenditures, with the project, City Hall. Been on one and added Smith's development expenses. It's just this month of January, there was $7,040 spent in that line item. Which, if we are following that code and approving all 5,000 expenses, the city council should have done that.
So what that is for the LRB study. So city council approved
No.
for LRB to do a study.
No, but the cost is supposed to go.
But what has to happen with that is the city has to pay, then we are reimbursed by the developer.
Was that?
As soon as they're coming tonight to present it. The study ended up being 15,000. You were given the choice of the two different companies, and the company that you picked, those charges ended up coming to 15,000. So that's financially how it has to happen. We pay and they reimburse. So as soon as we pay together, we will send it to, and they have signed a contract along with this. There was a contract we had to sign with LRB stating that we would pay, and then those costs would be reimbursed.
Didn't we, I mean, the mic's not working real well, so I'm just catching bits and pieces. But didn't we agree that we would do this fiscal impact fee if Stuart Adams paid for it?
Correct, and he is going to pay for it. They signed it. That's what I was saying, Debbie. He also signed the contract. So we had a contract that was reviewed by legal. We had to sign it and they had to sign it.
For the LRB.
With LRB.
Okay,
Yes.
all
Yeah.
right, thank you.
So the 7,040
Is the half. There's still, that is only the first half. The study ended up being over $15,000. So we paid half down, and then once now we've completed the study, they send us the invoice for the additional that will be paid, and they will reimburse us.
Or else 15,000.
It started out at about, it was less than that, but then it ended up, it was more, it went up, and it was not what, yeah.
So what?
Started off at 10 and ended up at 15.
Why did we do an extra?
That was.
Well,
You were in the meeting on the Zoom call with Jason when the final bill was there and discussed. At least Christ was, I don't recall everyone else.
So.
yeah.
Indicating there's $5,000 more.
Yeah, remember we were in the conference room and you were in there, Bryce, and they talked about it and said what it was. Yeah,
So nonetheless, that's just what the council thinks is okay.
So it will be reimbursed. So it's not a study that's going to be, it's not a cost, it's going to be a cost to the city. It will be reimbursed.
Okay, and that's not contingent upon approval of the project.
Whether they reimburse us or not,
Yes.
no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on financials? This is something that was in the packet and it is on our agenda for tonight, but it is not anything that has to be approved. Okay, the next thing then, is there any questions on the LRB study? And we will have Jason Birmingham will be here tonight to do the presentation for us. Have you had a chance to go through this? Hopefully you have, and you have questions.
So just, I know he's only presenting to us, from what I understand.
And
So-
to planning commission.
Oh, he is gonna go back.
No, we said for the planning commission to come to this meeting because he would only come one time, and because it was city council that commissioned the study, then he is coming here.
But I've had several people reach out to me on this and they want to know if there's gonna ever be a public comment on this study. There are a lot of questions. So does this need to go for a public hearing or, you know?
We'll have questions answered.
Yeah.
Hopefully they
Or
will.
they can even ask questions. I'm just asking because I don't know. We get this and then what's the next step?
Yes.
That's on the doorstep of planning commission. Is that the next step?
So he will come tonight and hopefully that's why we gave it to you plenty of time in advance. So you would have time. So hopefully you will ask your questions and he can go through and explain your questions.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, so hopefully everybody has their questions. So he will come tonight, he will answer the questions. That was part of the contract. And I think in that meeting you're in as well, Bryce, they talked about they would come to one meeting and present this.
So far, the public hearing issue was missed. We had a lengthy public hearing in the planning commission meeting. They presented the commission. After that hearing, the planning commission asked for the financial study. They asked the council to ask for the financial study. That was asked for. Now this will be returned to the planning commission. You wouldn't need to have a public hearing again because we've already had it. They would consider it, decide what their recommendation would be when it comes to you. Same issue there. Don't require them for a second public hearing. You're always able to do that, but no requirement.
So this will be tonight. And like I say, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look through it. And Ryan, if you want a copy made, we could go make you a hard copy if you would like that before. Would you wanna? Okay. Now we can go make a hard copy. Anyway, so hopefully you have questions and he will be here. We figure it might be, let's see, I think it might be locked. You have to key it in. Okay. Anyway, I think he'll do about a 30-minute presentation, have about 30 minutes to answer questions for you. So hopefully you came with all of your questions. So you can ask that. And then the next step will be that, yes, they will, not LRB, but then it will be for planning commission.
Bryce, I do think it's Terrastra's intention though to come to, what you mentioned. I do think it's Terrastra's intention to go to planning commission to request opening the general plan right after, the next one in March.
March
Yeah,
13th.
that's correct. That's at least what they've expressed to me, is that they haven't officially requested to go and open the general plan, but they've expressed that's probably the date that they want to come.
Anything you want to discuss about this before he comes with was there any specific questions you had or?
Well, I've read through it and it seems that it's all pretty much this, I mean, the whole thing's kind of contingent upon a CRA.
So he addresses two different things. The first one, as he said, was to evaluate the development, the fiscal benefits. And then the second one was about the CRA. So I
Right.
think he addresses both of those separate. Like the first one is based just on the fiscal benefits. And then the number 2, he does go in and talk about the CRA.
Yeah, and it seemed like he said it was cost prohibitive if we didn't get a CRA
For the developer, yeah.
app for the developer,
He's implying that the lift station, in his opinion, is too cost prohibitive
right,
without CRA for a developer in general to do this project.
right. So, and so CRAs are something that I'm not real fond of, but I'm willing to listen and see what there is.
Someone, the plan? I don't think so.
And pictures, so we're good. North of town.
So when they, this question you might know, so when they tie that, something, say, the tech goes in and Hamlin's decide to tie it. Are there impact fees any different or greater? Greater?
Well, so that was the problem in town, but it's not really in the first place, because the impact fee would be too high. From the cost.
I think as Malcolm mentioned, talked to you about that tonight. They feel like the cost of the lift station is very prohibitive for any developer, and it's just what you're saying, Dale, as far as with Hamlin's. It was too expensive for any one developer to do a lift station on their own.
Yeah, now,
Between 2 and 3 million, yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting, and I think this will be good to have them come. We've been waiting for a while for this study, and so I think it'll be good to have them come. And like I say, I hope we have a lot of questions written down that you can, go ahead and ask him what, and he will be able to explain this better. I reviewed it. I know Malcolm's reviewed it. We've tried to, but I will admit I don't understand all of it, so I certainly had some questions about it. So. Okay, anything else on that? If not, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is on the Roy 43. They're coming tonight to do a presentation. This was also in your packet. Any questions on what this is that was in your packet? For this, Roy? Those were some questions I had as well. So Roy will be coming to present this. Malcolm has a presentation, don't you have some?
They'll have a presentation. I don't know a lot about it. And just a brief context, I don't want to take all your time. Just, they came in and asked if they could stub off that road to access that 3-home development. And they just, Jared and me and collectively, we didn't want to look at the feasibility too much until there was a gauge on, the possibility.
so the reason for that is you all want them to come on from south, is that?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the area. I just know that there's that canal that cuts in between their development, and they can't. I think it's the only road they can get to there from is the Hooper Road. If you look at that site plan, and so anyways, they need sewer from Hooper and access from Hooper, and so that's what they're asking. But we haven't looked into it much. We wanted to know if the council had any interest.
I think about this should go to the planning commission for this.
You feel like it should have gone to planning commission first?
So from what I understand from what Jared explained, so when it was the question down before we had, for instance, like there was a developer that came in and wanted to know if the city council would be interested in selling a little piece of ground to them so they could do with that development, if you remember back on 5900. This is kind of the same scenario. This subdivision, if it ends up, so what they want to know is this something city council would even be entertaining the thought, because they would have to hook into Hooper's sewer. If you look at where these houses are going to be and where the Roy sewer is, so this is Roy's property, but they can't do the sewer underneath the slough. This is a landlocked piece of ground, and the only way to get to that is off of the Hooper Road. Because if you look further to the south, that's Hooper property, so they can't go off of 5500 because they don't own that land. So the reason why they're coming to ask is to see if that's even something city council would be willing before they go through all of their, just like we did before, saying, yes, this is something that you would allow them to do, is to hook into the Hooper sewer. You would allow them to come off of the road from Hooper.
Just one other technical note, Roy is actually requiring a letter of approval from Hooper before they would permit this. So that's
Yeah.
the other thought. Now, yeah, maybe could have made more sense to the planning commission. I guess it just depends anyway, how it plays out or how you guys determine you would allow it or not.
It looked like these three telephones.
Yeah.
Not single families.
They are single family.
They're gonna address it in their presentation. I think they're trying to make, they're either gonna be single family homes, they're saying that they're gonna be single family. They did some renderings and they look like single family, but their other development definitely all townhomes on the other side, but they said these would be single family at least.
In the packet, Brian, there was the picture of the renderings and they're single families. Yeah, yeah. So that's why they're coming to city council, and they will present that to you, and because like I say, they want to see if it's even something you would consider or not before they go through all those labor intensive and costs that end up doing it.
Same old community, you know.
Yes.
I think you guys have seen them before as well. I can get, I want to say Gary sent the page later.
Right, so we're gonna do all the steps and go in.
I think so. You guys remember they had come before or something. Before, I think it was townhomes, that's what the developers said, and that there wasn't a lot of interest in this time, they're hoping single family homes would be more agreeable.
And I'll make these announcements too when the next meeting starts, but emergency preparedness meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And so if any of you are ever interested in coming to the emergency preparedness, and then some of you took on or said that you would be willing to help with some of our community volunteer committees. There was the beautification, the economic development, the community events and arts council, and they meet on the third Tuesday. They decided of every month at 7 o'clock here. So, and I will again will announce that, but any of you that were going to help on any of those committees, if you want to come and help with that, then that is when they're meeting as well. And we should know next week as far as grants, that on Wednesday, the arts committee is meeting. They came to set their liaison. We presented about Hooper Tomato Days. We told them we're willing to take partial funding, any funding that we could get that would help with our celebration. We feel like would be really beneficial. And then Thursday, Parks and Recs are going to be meeting, and those grants were to do the portable bleachers, to get some grass out here around the pickleball courts, and then to do some power upgrade. But we should know that, well, as of the end of next week. So, is there any other city council reports of anything that you have met with this week or month, or since the last 2 weeks, that you wanted to report?
One thing from the sheriff's department is the animal shelter is no longer under the sheriff's department. It's like its own entity from what it sounds like to me now. So that's just a thing that I've picked up from there, and they are doing a great job. They have a lot of deputies that are receiving recognition, and they seem to really be striving to do a much better job.
Thank you. So the seniors met today, the senior citizens, so they meet on their lunches the first and third Wednesday of every, or excuse me, Thursday. They changed it from Wednesday to Thursday. We didn't have it very many today. There was what, 8? Yeah, but with weather, it kind of puts a damper on them. They have a little more difficult time. So that is the first and third Thursday of every month. Anybody that's over the age of 65 is welcome to come and join with the seniors. They have a really good meal and it's a $4 suggested donation if you're at that age and want to come and meet with the seniors. So 12 o'clock. Yeah. Yep. Next Thursday, 6 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, we thought we'd do on the end of April, or excuse me, February, March and April, on the fourth Thursday of all those months. So we'll have time to really dive into the budget and so. Okay, if nothing else then, we will close this meeting and we'll move up to our next meeting. And so Malcolm will get this one closed and on to the next. Thank you.